Hi, I'm John C. Butler. I'm here to talk to you today about a pair of finance classes that I offered that have a similar focus, but are slightly different because of who the audience is. FIN294 is offered typically in the second half of the fall semester for 7 weeks to Master of Science in Finance students. FIN394 is offered to MBAs, typically in the spring and lasts the entire semester. The topic is advanced valuation and financial modeling, and I do very similar things. We just do 1 or 2 extra projects for the MBA class, okay? So what are we trying to do? I'm trying to help you build financial models in Excel that are going to be useful. And by useful, what I typically mean is that something about the assignment, I think, is a skill or a set of techniques and tools you can apply to a problem that you're likely to encounter later. Right, and so I'll show you a specific example of that here in a second. Some people would call this best practices in Excel. I would call it good enough practices, right? So we're going to try to be good, and I'll show you some tips. But at the end of the day, these are really a lot of hacks. Like when we're putting these things together, we're trying to kludge different things together in the most efficient and effective way possible. What are the areas? Well, we'll talk about a comparables analysis, which I'm going to show you an example of in a second. We'll do a loan amortization schedule. We'll do style analysis, which has nothing to do with clothing or haute couture. It has to do with almost forensically looking at the returns of an investment and seeing what it looks like our risk exposure is. Some optimal portfolio selection, thinking about waterfalls or tranches, very common in private equity investments where you've got LPs. And those models turn out to be really complicated, or at least more complicated than you think, because what I get paid today depends on who I am, but also on what I've gotten paid in the past. And so keeping tabs on that stuff, it's a little harder than it seems initially. The other way to put it is often the way these tranches work is I'm given a criteria in returns. So my preferred return is 10%, but I somehow have to convert that into dollars that you get paid. And it sounds kind of hard, and then I'll show you that it's really not that bad. We'll do some fixed income derivatives, things that depend on interest rates, typically, equity derivatives. It's not a programming class. I'll introduce you to Visual Basic. I'll let you get your toes wet, dip your toe in and try it. I'll give you some macros to use, and it's really more of an excuse to get you excited about it than it is a way to teach you to do it. And I'm happy to entertain topics that you think are interesting. One year we had a student who owned a food truck. He asked for some help in coming up with ways to calculate overtime pay, which sounds trivial, but the way that it gets recorded in the rules are more complicated than you would think. And it's because the 7-day window is moving around in ways that are hard to predict until you really get into it. So he and I'd work on it after class. Then some students wanted to see it, so we brought it back to the class and showed it to them. And again, it's just, we're trying to come up with ways to give you little bits of skill, little bits of modeling approach that you can apply to different places. Okay? How are you evaluated? Well, it depends. For the MSF class, there's a test because I need you to take a test. It's sort of early in the MSF program. So I give you an exam to sort of prove your modeling chops, but then you can go to employers and say, look, I know how to do this. A lot of the grade is homework though, and then some participation. For the MBAs, there's only homework assignments, but you will choose one of the homework assignments and do it at home by yourself. And it has to be an individual assignment that will substitute for the test effectively. It's like a take-home test. We just don't have time to do that for the MSF students. And then participation is a higher percentage because, well, it's an MBA class. That's how things work. I'll show you the outcome, and that's sometimes makes students kind of laugh. This is what the homework assignment is going to look like when you build a comp stack. So here I have a list of comps. I'm trying to value a company that I think is similar to these food companies. It must sell food. I've got a nice graph that's doing a couple of things. It's sorting things from smallest to largest, and it's making it very clear that I'm valuing Campbell's by highlighting that here and here, and highlighting it in the graph. However, what if I only have 4 companies? What if I'm not valuing Campbell's Soup, but I'm valuing John Christopher Butler? And what if Campbell's is not one of the better firms, but it's actually the worst firm in terms of PE multiple, or has the lowest PE multiple? Well, now when I go back to my sheet, you'll notice everything automatically adjusts. My list only has 5 companies. My graph only has 5. It picked up that I changed the ticker. It's no longer Campbell's, it's JCB. And Campbell, or JCB, excuse me, has the lowest PE multiple, so that blue bar is following it around. That's not a macro. That's just me using some of the built-in features of Excel. Those are the kind of things that we're going to do as we move through all the assignments. I like the class. I think it's a ton of fun. Students generally find it useful, and I hope to see you soon.